one of the reasons we all love UFO is Ed Bishop's fantastic performance as Commander Ed Straker. Probably, I would say, one of the greatest and most interesting of all Anderson characters. Wouldn't you agree? Other than Hubble Orin, of course, in Space Precinct.
No, I think that's fair enough, yeah.
Yeah. Well, Ed himself was one of those people that nobody seemed to have a bad experience of, either meeting socially or working with. And that may explain why Dad and Sylvia were so happy to entertain any suggestions or ideas that he had regarding the character, and also why they kept inviting him back for various projects. But in addition to his acting work, Ed was also rather politically active. And he was strongly opposed to warfare and weapons, probably one of the reasons he got on so well with Dad. So with that in mind, it may surprise you that in forming the character of Ed Straker, he actually took inspiration from a documentary he had recently seen about nuclear weapons.
Oh.
Now, we are not sure what documentary this was exactly, but it featured a reporter accompanying 2 technicians down into an American missile silo. These are the guys who, if the order came from on high to press the red button, would actually be pressing the red button to launch the missile.
Ooh, right.
So these technicians showed the reporter around the complex, and eventually the reporter asked the question, which they'd probably been on his mind for some time. So why are you each carrying a gun? We're miles underground, all alone, in what is essentially a sealed bank vault. Who do you think is going to break in? One of the technicians then replied, "Oh no, the gun's to shoot him," referring to his colleague, in case he goes crazy.
Wow.
Wow. The reporter then asked about the enormous responsibility of not just looking after the missiles, but potentially actually having to fire one someday. You press this button, the missile's launched, you've got no idea where it's going, but you know it's potentially going to incinerate millions of people. Do you have any qualms about that? He asked. And without missing a beat, the technician coldly replied, "No qualms." Wow. Interesting guys, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, Ed later said that that interview and the attitude of the anonymous missile technician was the germ of his portrayal of Straker. And you can definitely see that reflected in the character, particularly in the very early episode before they started fleshing out his backstory. But it also seems to have extended out onto the series as a whole. There are several episodes, for example, where a shadow operative is, or even an innocent civilian, is considered expendable if it means stopping the aliens or completing a mission. So, while a lot of the show's darker and more downbeat moments would have come from the writers, it's rather interesting, I think, that Ed was already thinking about bringing the same darkness to Straker before the cameras had even started rolling. And that's all thanks to some random American missile technician, a real person who was a massive influence on the character of Ed Straker, but, as Ed himself admitted, probably wasn't much fun at parties.
Well, I mean, that's a cheery fat fact, isn't it? Great. Well, thanks for that. But that's interesting. So
fascinating, though.
Yeah. So it's quite an emotionally cool performance, isn't it? And I think that really speaks to the genius of Ed Bishop, because how can you take an emotionally remote character and yet make it one of the most popular characters certainly in Gerry Anderson's genre? How do you do that? That's very clever, isn't it?
Well, he was a clever guy and very talented, and as Dad said multiple times, he should have been like a Bond, really. You know, he had all the talent and the charisma, and was a nice guy to work with, so that he should have gone really far in Hollywood, or certainly in Pinewood. But yeah.
And a great friend to the fans, I remember as well. When we were shooting Space Precinct, I remember we went along to a convention in Watford, and he was there then and was very popular with the fans and was very, very friendly to them, which is rather nice. And I, sadly, didn't get a chance to talk to him, and I wish now, of course, that I had.
Yeah, fascinating guy. I met him a couple of times at conventions, and again, always very kind and friendly. There's a picture of me and Dad and him somewhere.
Nice.
Very talented guy, and it was really interesting going through that Fab Fact actually, and kind of thinking, God, yes, I could actually really see that cold disconnectedness doing, the job that matters and getting it done, no matter the cost, be it to his colleague or to millions of people. It was, I follow orders, and that's what I do. Yeah. So amazing.
Very nicely done, Ed Bishop. Yeah.
If anybody has any idea what documentary that might have been, if you saw it, if you know of a title, We'd love to hear from you. Email us podcast@gerryanderson.com. But otherwise, that will bring us very neatly to the end of this week's
Ed Fact!